Content warning. This video is about a sensitive topic involving violence, assault, and loss of life. We've removed any graphic or descriptive content to comply with YouTube's guidelines. The aim of this video is to provide informative, factual journalism on tragic events in the public interest that does not dismiss its seriousness. All clips shown are under the doctrine of fair use for news reporting and analysis, and some points made in this video are simply opinions and theories. I'm not responsible for third-party information, and this video is being made purely for artistic, educational, documentary, and scientific purposes. Folks, I did a recent video on how some people think that Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell might have actually had something to do with the disappearance of Madeleine McCann. Now, there's new theories going around that Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell might have actually had something to do with the murder of JonBenét Ramsey. Now, if you don't know anything about this case, I'm going to refresh your memory in this video. I'm going to show you some of the theories as to why people think that this additional high-profile, very, very dark murder case might once again be associated with possibly the most prolific international and network that has just been uncovered. Okay, and honestly, I've seen so much crazy stuff in these stories recently that I could believe it. Okay, but now I'm going to start telling you about some of these weird connections that have apparently been made with this case and Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. Now, the first alleged connection that links JonBenét Ramsey to Ghislaine Maxwell was this specific photo. Now, this has never been verified to be Ghislaine Maxwell herself, but it does look awful lot like her, right? It says, is that Ghislaine Maxwell in the background of a JonBenét Ramsey picture? Apparently, her and John had the same lawyer. Okay. Maxwell has a face that to me looks like so many people. She does look like the woman in the photo, but Ghislaine also bears a striking resemblance to my godmother. Ha! Looking at profile photos of Maxwell, it looks like the end of her nose is much more pointed than the woman in the JonBenét photo, but it's hard to say as I can't find a known photo of Maxwell taken from this same awkward angle. He was saying, odd thing is, Haddon Morgan, foreman of Denver, Colorado, represented John Ramsey and also represents Maxwell. They're saying the picture was taken at a public event, so I'm not sure it means much. Hear me out, guys. What if Maxwell and Epstein had noticed her fame rising in beauty contests? Because let's be real, people knew of her existence. They had met the family of JonBenét Ramsey and offered the parents a deal of some sort, which was rejected. Then they hired someone to kidnap her. The kidnapping failed, and they killed her before she could talk. Saying, I wonder if John was abusing JonBenét Ramsey and wanted more and knew that Maxwell could provide. Maybe both John went too far with it. It's crazy. Okay, it's actually crazy. Look, there are the theories. A lot of people don't believe it, okay? People saying it's hard to tell who's in the background, but the context would be helpful. We want to try and determine what's going on. For as much as I love a good conspiracy, I don't think it's her. The woman in the photo has a pretty obvious mole that I can't find in any photos of Ghislaine. This isn't to say she hasn't had the mole removed, but I found photos of her at a really young age and didn't spot that mole. They're saying the one under the eye area looks like a shadow under her eye skin that's bulged out a bit. Let's have a look. Yeah, there's a little bit of a shadow there. Could be an artifact on the camera. Could be a bit of dust on the lens. But anyway, here's a closer look at that same image. So just so you can get a look, because it does look awful lot like Ghislaine Maxwell, to be completely honest. Ready to have your mind blown apart? This is one of the last photos ever taken of JonBenét Ramsey. Look who else is in the photo. And they're showing from the side. She got a little shadow under her eye in this one, so I could believe it. Does look a damn lot like her, especially this picture. Jesus. I don't know. It does look a little bit similar now. The Epstein files release basically included a picture of a girl that a lot of people allege actually looks like JonBenét Ramsey herself. So this image was going around. Anyone think that this is potentially another JonBenét Ramsey photo? Very creepy that he's even getting emails like this, all right? The emails like this being sent around. Okay, this, from what I understand, actually, no, this was something that was sent to the FBI, but it relates to the Epstein files. We don't know who it was sent from, but it is a photograph of an image on a computer screen. It says, other posts have shown potential photos of her in Epstein's mansion. This one seems to potentially look like her. Saying it could be Dubin's daughter, Eva Dubin, who used to date Epstein. She's from Sweden, used to be a model, and is a pageant winner. These pageants need to be shut down. She became a physician who owns Dubin Breast Cancer Center at Mount Sinai Hospital in New York City. She's in the files a lot, and I personally dislike her. She's either herself or still reading through their emails. One example, she tells Epstein to come over next week because her daughter and her daughter's friends will be there. I do not like her billionaire husband either. Okay. I'm saying it could be any child model with blue hair. There's absolutely nothing aside from the hair color and outfit that would lead it to be JonBenét. As far as the outfit, when things are in style, they're in style. Everybody's purchasing it and not like it was a custom outfit. They're saying, I don't think JonBenét Ramsey had pierced ears. These are some type of pageant photos on Google where she has an earring present, but they appear to be clip-on. Lots of photos where it's clear she has no piercing. The above photo has real ear piercings. I don't think it's her at all. So there's other photos that were found inside Epstein's home that some people think might be another indication. It says here we have the redacted image on the left of Epstein and the little girl on the right in the same photo. Aside from verifying identity, why is him holding her by her ankles redacted too? So some people think these images sort of taken off at an angle so you can't see them too well. I think they're drawing a comparison between the outfit there and you can kind of see a little bit close with these images here, but it's quite hard to see. So he's sort of holding her by the ankles there. And then once again, people are dragging that same picture that they think Ghislaine Maxwell is there for. So I can't be certain that the girl in the image is JonBenét Ramsey, but it's certainly possible. When you include Ghislaine being in the photo with her too, it's really kind of hard to ignore. In the fourth image, I took the photo and horizontally skewed the image to stretch the face out slightly to get a better insight on facial features. For anyone who's under the age of 25, you wouldn't understand how big of a national story that the murder of JonBenét Ramsey was. It was everywhere, similar to Scott Peterson. There was another national story about a mother who got off the hook for killing her, but I can't remember her name. She had dark hair. Fifth image is Ghislaine behind JonBenét, 1,000,000,000%. People saying, can you actually check stuff before posting these theories? It's already been debunked and discussed in this subreddit. It's Selena Dubin, not JonBenét. Jeffrey Epstein was her godfather and had pictures of his godchildren all over his house, especially Selena. Her mum, Eva Dubin, and her dad, Glenn Dubin, were close to him. Apparently, he even wanted to marry her when she got older. Creepy. I've also seen that fifth picture everywhere on TikTok, but I've never seen the full version. Honestly, that fifth picture looks like AI to me. Does anyone have the full picture? But what about the ransom note left that said we represent a small foreign faction, we respect your business but not the country that it serves? Just so happens to be one of her parents' names are Patsy, right? Very interesting theory. So for starters, JonBenét wasn't missing. She was found dead in the basement. That is true, we know that. Now, interestingly enough, in 1997, Alan Dershowitz, a vocal defender of Epstein and the lawyer who actually secured Epstein's sweetheart deal in 2008 when he was charged with he was oddly vocal about the JonBenét Ramsey case back in 1997. Ramsey case may never go to trial, lawyer says. Still more questions than answers in JonBenét's death. Nearly a year ago, as carols echoed and Christmas lights twinkled, a father carried the life of his beauty queen daughter up the stairs and onto the world stage. It was an immediate and global mystery. Who killed JonBenét Ramsey, the little blonde girl with the dazzling smile? A year later, the mystery remains unsolved. There have been no arrests, and while there is a new lead investigator and there are signs the investigation is active and ongoing, there remain more questions than answers in the 6-year-old's death. Will there be justice for JonBenét, or will missteps in the early hours, police failing to secure the crime scene and allowing the father to find the body, prove to be the case's undoing? This may be one of those cases where the American public may have to be satisfied with the fact there may never be a trial, said Harvard law professor Alan Dershowitz. Early moves when the police thought they were dealing with a kidnapping rather than a homicide will likely come back to haunt them, said Greg McCary, a former FBI criminal profiler who now works with the threat assessment group of Newport Beach, California. Family friends wandered in and out of the house after Patsy Ramsey reported finding a ransom note demanding more than $118,000 for her daughter on early December 26th. John Ramsey searched the house for and about 8 hours later, at the request of police, he found her in the basement. There's no doubt that the defense say hypothetically, if the parents are charged, or one of them, or both, the defense is going to have a field day with all the things that went on in that initial period. The lack of control of the crime scene and all of that, McCary said. Boulder Police Chief Tom Kobe, who plans to retire at the end of 1998, admitted mistakes were made, but the police commander he put in charge of the case in October isn't dwelling on the past. I haven't gone back and tried to use hindsight and 20/20 vision to analyze how and why everything was done, Commander Mark Beckner said at a news conference in November. I took what was on the plate and my focus has been forward. This is what we have today. How do we get where we want to be tomorrow? There are dozens of tasks Beckner still wants completed, including new interviews with the Ramseys and their 10-year-old son Burke. He said the Ramseys, labeled the focus of the investigation in April, remain under an umbrella of suspicion. Burke, he said, is being treated as a witness. Beckner said he's confident an arrest will be made, and indicated there's still evidence to be collected. There are reports that police believe a stun gun might have been used to subdue JonBenét and are asking neighbors whether they owned a two-pronged taser-like weapon. Some neighbors said they're being interviewed by police for the first time. Officials would not comment on the prospect of a stun gun, although Newsweek reported in this week's edition that top prosecution officials have confirmed they believe that a stun gun was used. Any evidence they get now, a year later, is going to be relatively stale. It's not going to be case-cracking evidence, argues Robert Hardaway, a law professor at the University of Denver and co-author of Colorado Evidence Manual. It's just their justification for not acting. Hardaway believes the case should be presented to a grand jury or at a preliminary hearing, options District Attorney Alex Hunter is considering. McCrary suspects authorities are tying up loose ends in an effort to negate any possible defense strategies, and officials investigated child demons who live near the Ramseys. A not expert recently analyzed knots used to tie the garrote They're probably out there doing all of those things now so that later in court they can't be accused of not having explored these different options. Every turn in the investigation has been a grist for a public that has been obsessed with the case, hooked by videos and pictures of a glittering JonBenét dressed in pageant costumes. That's super weird. Why are you hooked by that? The Ramseys made public statements. Rarely. Conflict emerged between the district attorney's office and police, along with the dissension within the police department. There were accusations that prosecutors and Ramsey's lawyers were too friendly and too closely connected. A New York lawyer took legal action against Hunter, claiming evidence exists to prove that Patricia Ramsey wrote the ransom note, but Hunter moved to dismiss that case. Leaders in Boulder say that they have faith JonBenét's murderer will be brought to justice. It certainly got to affect us, said Bob Greenlee, a former city councilman who took over as mayor in November, but we have faith and confidence in our police department. As for the Ramseys, they will mark Christmas one day and the anniversary of their daughter's death next. They can't ignore it this time of year, said Diane Barnett Lau, who grew up with Miss Ramsey in Parkersburg, West Virginia. I know the family is strongly together, and I'm so relieved after talking to Patsy each time. They still seem to be very optimistic that there are several leads and that this person will be caught. The worst thing that can happen is that they don't ever find who did it. No matter what happens, it's clear the case won't disappear. The case is a long way from over, Dershowitz said. This case is one that will capture the public's imagination for decades to come, especially if it remains unprosecuted. The public won't forget. And Reddit still hasn't forgotten as well. But a lot of people have been focusing in on the connections between Ghislaine Maxwell and JonBenét's father through a shared law firm. So this has been going around, doing the rounds. It's an old Rolling Stone article that kind of makes these connections. It says, Pizzagate proponents' latest insane theory, Ghislaine Maxwell was involved with the JonBenét Ramsey murder. So there's a section here. Said the theory was basically given further credence, a term used loosely in this context. These websites suck. When internet detectives sleuthed that Maxwell and the Ramsey family were both repped by the same law firm, the Denver-based firm Haddon, Morgan and Foreman, though by different lawyers and more than 20 years apart. And this firm is also represented among others, such as Harvey Weinstein and Charlie Sheen. What a great lineup that they've got there. Now, coming forward to July of 2020, in this period of time, a retired Colorado police officer, Perry Freeman, would actually post a now deleted video talking about a phone call that he received regarding a link to this case and Jeffrey Epstein. So let's have a little look-see at that. Okay. So this is the deleted call. We've got an archive of it, thankfully. But this is basically JonBenét Ramsey's secret phone call, possible Epstein connection. And it basically says a former Colorado Springs Police Department homicide detective talked about the JonBenét Ramsey murder and an anonymous telephone call that he was on the receiving end of. And there are possibly connections between the Epstein case and the Ramsey case involving Ghislaine Maxwell and others. People are saying, I think we've only seen the tip of the iceberg regarding Ghislaine Maxwell. Okay. They're saying they should shut down the pageants as well. I think they're super creepy. And basically people will be hit with the hellfire. Now, I don't know if this video itself is archived. Don't actually think we can look at the video. We can just see the description. So it's more information that they're, you know, sweeping this under the rug. We can't even listen to this video here. So that video has been duly scrubbed from the internet, which is very suspicious. A lot of suspicious things have been just gone missing on the internet after all of these Epstein allegations have come out. And I find it incredibly creepy, to be honest. I find it a little bit disturbing. But what we do have is a description of what was in that deleted video from Redditors who actually watched it at the time. And basically, you know, they believe the rumors that this was all connected in this ring. Okay. So basically, this is the JonBenét Ramsey subreddit. From a deleted user, it says, I used to work in Boulder and there were whispers amongst some of the socialites. Just a theory that's interesting to talk about. It's not that deep, and no, it's not Pizzagate BS. Legitimate articles on the reports and theories ring in Boulder were posted below. Personal encounter to the rumors. I was told about a decade ago from my workplace that the gossip around Boulder between some of the socialites was that Patsy as a child was to a wealthy group. As Patsy grew up and had her own kids, they continued to become part of that group, where Patsy then her daughter. I don't want to say a cult necessarily, but a lot of wealthy people who were involved with the Ramseys, and it was something they partook in. Is there anyone in Boulder that heard this gossip? I've heard 2 people there who have been there for decades tell me this, and it was more of a hush-hush type of gossip. It feels weird even mentioning it now. I know it's a reach, but the information seemed genuine in the way that I received it. And there was basically a long comment here. It said, OP, this is very interesting to me. I lived in Colorado in 1996, Denver, not Boulder, and I was volunteered at the Denver Public Library. Of course, people were talking about the case. I recall hearing some say they thought it was the family, but that another group of people were involved as well. My opinion has always been RDI, but 2 things stand out to me. Officer Perry, Cop Facts on YouTube, was a Colorado Springs PD at the time, and he took a call on a tip line very early in the case where someone was claiming that she was killed outside the home accidentally after abuse involving a group of people, including John. Something had gone wrong, and the whole kidnapping story was invented to cover it up. They did mention that the garrote before the detail was publicly released, but others have made the point that a ton of info was being leaked at the time. He does mention Epstein, and I believe this is the video that's been deleted, right? Yeah, it's been deleted, so we only have that little tidbit of information. He does mention Epstein, which is the part where he loses me. I doubt there's any connection, but I think he was just trying to present all possibilities. The most damning thing to me is the wording of the true bill that the grand jury handed down. It states that John and Patsy knowingly put her in harm's way and allowed individuals to access her that ultimately led to her harm and death. I mean, come on. That's either Burke or an adult group of adults who were abusing her, right? What else could it be? Randy Simmons, this guy, photographed JonBenét and many other pageant kids. In fact, he was considered JonBenét's primary photographer, and he later went to jail for a decade on bad picture taking with young'uns charges. I'm going to just take that off screen. Apparently, he was also arrested once for walking naked down a public street, and he sold a portfolio of JonBenét's photos after she'd been killed. I swear I've read that he had complaints against him involving other children as well, but I can't find that info now. Nothing really ties him to the murder, but it's certainly a coincidence that would make it seem like there was a group, and he was one of them. Now, there would also be a very strange letter from the files that references JonBenét Ramsey in passing as somebody's middle name, alongside Boulder, Colorado. Now, this was the same city that JonBenét Ramsey and her family lived in, and it would just be very disturbing that this would even be included letters sent from Jeffrey Epstein. It says, either way, myself and my common-law husband, Peter JonBenét Klein Tizer Epstein, his boyfriend Chad, and my lovely, well-trained daughters, blank and blank, will help you achieve all your deviant goals. It's very, very creepy that this even would be getting sent out to people. So I guess this is a message sent to Epstein offering him to be part of some kind of involving, all right, drop by for a dynamic healing session at blank. Excuse me? Excuse me? Offered by the Bowl School of Nourishment and Healing, successor to the Jeffrey Epstein Foundation. Individual sessions will measure your level of to deviant stimulus. That is actually insane. I don't even want to read some of that stuff. It says we offer group sessions. This is insane. This is insane. I don't even want to read more of this, okay? But this is creepy. This basically appears to be a letter offering somebody to come and enjoy the that is being offered by Jeffrey Epstein. It's insane. It says, when Divine Madness expanded to a ranch in Reserve, New Mexico, we became the neighbors to educator, entrepreneur, and philanthropist Jeffrey Epstein, who bought the Zorro Ranch. He said he was intrigued by my recruitment methods, and Yo sent me as an ambassador. Jeffrey was tall, handsome, rich, and magnetic. I learned all I could from Yo and Jeffrey. Jeffrey became my new common-law husband. He adopted my teenage daughter Blank and her friends of his own, flying them in private jets, taking them snorkeling in the Caribbean, and introducing them to VIPs like Alan Dershowitz, Prince Andrew, and even President Clinton. Excuse me? What the? I became part of a coven of very empowered, confident, and successful women recruiters, including blank, 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 blank. We used all the recruiting techniques developed as a Yo girl, taken to a whole new level for Jeffrey. We called ourselves the Dream Team. Every girl had a $1,000 bounty, and I was recruiting a dozen a week through my nutrition classes. Still, I wanted more from Jeffrey. He was often distant and dismissive of me and my feminine charms. One night, as the sun set over Little St. James Island, I stood in the room where Jeffrey had just received a therapeutic massage from one of my daughter's friend. The room was covered in a genius which was going to waste. I had an inspiration, asked the chef to bring me an extra large turkey baster, and in a beautiful fertility ritual created my youngest daughter. What the hell? At first, Jeffrey was furious, but I pointed out that by staggering daughters every 8 years, he would always have a supply of at his disposal. Sickening. He brought me a house at blank, got my oldest daughter into blank by donating 50 grand to their gender studies program, and paid for my youngest daughter to attend blank. All she had to do was send him a pint of Mormon blood every week. Thank you, Jeffrey. You helped so many people and gave me the Italian marble tiles in my kitchen, steam shower, and a ranch of my own to continue my great work. Also, a quick thank you to Jelaine. By the way, I haven't said anything to the feds yet, and I won't as long as those USPS money orders keep arriving from Brooklyn's MDC. Stop by blank for your first free session of dynamic. Bring a friend or even a dozen will make it worth your time. I'm Ether Cohen Tizer Epstein, and I approve of this message. This is insanity, right? This is insanity. I don't even know if I want to. From the Cohen Epstein family to your family, please keep on your altar or present to blank for 10% off your first. This is sick, all right? I've never seen that far before, but that was actually bizarre, okay? Now, interestingly enough, in February, just last month, JonBenét Ramsey's father would basically address the allegations that Epstein was involved, and it would be covered in this TMZ article. JonBenét Ramsey's dad says, PDF Epstein didn't come near my kid. The fact that he's actually putting this out there is really interesting. It basically says a viral video suggesting that late PDF Jeffrey Epstein had a twisted relationship with JonBenét Ramsey, but her father is saying this is just AI slop. So this would address those photos that were hanging in his townhouse with people believing that that was actually JonBenét Ramsey. The photo is redacted, but the DOJ said it's from his PDF lair in New York City. But a video shows the photo in a hallway of a girl bearing a striking resemblance to JonBenét Ramsey. And it would also claim that Epstein associate Ghislaine Maxwell was at her 6th birthday party. Thing is, JonBenét's pop says the conspiracy theory is bogus. He told TMZ, absolutely no truth to it. I haven't seen this, but with AI, anything's possible. I figured one of these days I would be accused of being Epstein's pal. Hasn't happened yet. Internet people can be very cruel. So there you have it, right? It is dark. Okay. Now, I'm not saying I don't believe him, but it is interesting that he would come out to put that out there rather than just leaving that to the internet, because the internet is undefeated. But that letter inviting people to some kind of getaway, that is one of the most disturbing things that I've seen in this case. Could be a bunch of nonsense, but they had a picture of Jeffrey Epstein saying you can put this at your altar. Bruh, this is just so dark. Okay, so look, let me know what you guys think. I'm not sure if I personally believe these rumors. I do feel like there are some connections that do make me think, oh, maybe anything's possible. I feel like I've learned from covering these files that anything is possible, and there are dark things going on in the corners of society that we just could have never even imagined. Okay, it's really, really sad. But anyway, I will keep you guys updated. I'm going to do a video on the Iran war in a minute, and also just another separate one about like a big scandal involving secret microwave weapons that have apparently been used against Americans abroad, which is going to be a different flavor of story, but I think it is really interesting, so I'll keep you guys updated on that. But anyway, until next time, hope you enjoyed this update, and I'll see you soon.